Hi everyone, it's Frankie-Lou.
And Angus.
And we're here today to discuss with you edible perennials. Now, some of you may not know what a perennial is. You might have heard about it in conjunction with the flower market, but Angus knows what they are, so he's going to tell you about them.
A perennial is a plant that you only plant once. The way it works is so in the wintertime when it gets cold, its roots stay alive underground and they stay alive, and then they come back up and usually reseed themselves
As well, yeah.
So yeah, you only plant it once. And
yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah, they are awesome. So there's a lot of perennial flowers that people are really fond of, but what some people aren't aware of is there's also perennial edible plants.
Yeah,
and most of you know about probably the most popular perennial edible fruits. Yeah, strawberries. They're delicious.
But yeah, they are a perennial.
They are a perennial, and we're actually in the middle of developing some new strawberry beds right now. And another one that's really popular and does really well here. And what are those ones, I guess?
Raspberries.
Raspberries, yeah. We've also got some of those, and we're also going to expand that. That's sort of a theme around here. In Zone 3, we have found that with the hail and with the early and late frosts, we have the greenhouse to help us out. But the other thing that really helps us deal with it is having these perennial edible plants, because they're really, really hardy. Because what does Mommy usually do when it hails?
She cries and she stays and she goes to bed for a year.
No, I do tend to go to bed for a day when those hail storms come. So because I have about 30 raised beds here, and
they die,
and a lot of it dies. They die. But the not our perennial edibles. I can come out and I see my rhubarb plants and they're still alive, and a bunch of other plants as well. So we're going to talk about some of those and some of the uses of these plants that you maybe didn't think about, and how we plan the garden, because we've got you situated here right now on the edge of the garden, and that's because we tend to plant our perennial beds. Yeah. So behind us here
is our rhubarb.
Yep. And well, one of our rhubarb patches.
Yes, we have more than several.
One. Yeah.
But we like to call the rhubarb sprouts Easter eggs.
Yeah.
Because they come around Easter and they're bright and shiny.
Yeah, it's always such a lovely thing to see for the first time in the spring, those rhubarb sprouts coming up. They do look like a little egg coming out of the ground. And then this here, which doesn't look so great right now because it's just starting to come up.
It's our asparagus.
One of our asparagus patches.
Yeah, these three, I think.
Yeah, these 3 beds are asparagus
patches.
What?
Replace them with rhubarb.
I love rhubarb, but Angus isn't very keen about the asparagus. I don't mind, because honestly it is so delicious when you plant it fresh in your garden that it usually never makes it in the house. Basically the chickens and I fight over it, and I just eat it like raw, fresh, right there. It's my treat because it is so delicious. So that's one of the best things about perennials, is they tend to be early season plants. And when you live in Zone 3 and it's going to snow here twice this week, they're telling us, it's so nice to have something that we can eat guaranteed year after year, when I know it's going to be weeks before I can put other stuff in the ground, right? So that's one of the reasons we do like it so much. And it's going to be fine. It's going to snow and the stuff's not going to care. Okay, so one of the things that maybe you might see as a negative about perennial crops,
it takes like a year before it actually begins to work.
Yeah, most of the perennial crops do take some time to establish. After you plant new rhubarb roots, you should probably wait about a year before you harvest them. Asparagus, when you plant it from seed, you should wait 3 years. I don't even have to worry about it anymore because these are self-seeding so much. But yeah, that first 3 years that I was waiting for the asparagus was a bit tricky. And another thing though is it is a good idea to contain them because they are so hardy, and also because they tend to self-seed, they tend to spread. So that's another reason to have on the edge here, so that we can keep them contained away from the vegetables that we don't want to have perennials in. So we're going to talk about a few of those different ones. So we've talked about rhubarb.
We've talked about asparagus.
But I'm going to talk more about rhubarb because you know how much I love my rhubarb. A great thing about rhubarb is that actually we tend to get 2 crops out of it every year. I will be harvesting this within a few weeks, the first crop, and then it'll come back again in the fall. And I make so many things out of this. I've learned to embrace the rhubarb because I'm going to get it every year. And I can never grow enough for myself. I'm always like asking my neighbors if they have it because I make so many preserves out of it. Are any of those your favorites? But they're mine. I make sweet and sour sauce. I use it in place of tamarind pulp in Thai cooking. I make a red pepper and rhubarb jelly, which tends to do really well at the fall fair. I make jams with it. The cordial is awesome for a nice sweet and sour martini. Lots of wonderful things that you can do with rhubarb.
But just don't eat the leaves.
Don't eat the leaves. Leaves
They're
are
very poisonous.
Very poisonous, but they're also very lovely. And I also use them very often in floral arrangements as a background because it's quite beautiful. Now, asparagus. Asparagus is delicious. Once again, there are some poisonous things about it, though.
Seeds.
The seeds are poisonous. There's these little red berries that come on the ferns in the after, and those are poisonous. So don't eat those. Yeah. But boy, I can harvest rhubarb, asparagus for usually about 6 weeks. I have to come out here though almost every day and harvest because once it gets going, it goes really, really a lot. And have I managed to convince you to try any of it raw yet?
Oh yeah, and I didn't like it.
Okay. Oh well. Now one that we have over here, and I can't move everything around, is we've got horseradish. Horseradish is one of my favorite things, and I love to can with it.
It's so spicy.
Angus isn't a big fan, but he is a big fan of fermenting pickles. Angus likes to make his own fermented pickles, and the horseradish leaves add a really nice tangy flavor. And on top of that, they contain a lot of tannin, so you can save your horseradish leaves in the fridge and stick them into your pickles, and they're going to be crunchier because of it. I'm also growing over there this year. We're starting sorrel, and sorrel is a really nice lemony leaf. It's big, it's beautiful, it's a relative sort of, I believe of kale, but it's tart, and it's used in a lot of French cooking, freezes up well, so we're going to have lots of that. Right now the ducks are wandering through one of our favorite perennial beds. And which one's that, Angus?
Walking onions.
Yeah, walking onions. It's also called Egyptian onion.
Walk like an Egyptian onion.
And the reason it's called walking onion is it grows these really long, beautiful bulb heads.
It's like a serpent.
Yeah, what it does is it grows these really long, beautiful bulb heads. They're not up right now. It's just the small little greens, and then that falls over.
Then it sprouts. Then it falls over.
Yeah,
then
and
it
so
sprouts, then it falls over.
Yeah, it just spreads like crazy.
Then it goes up.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very beautiful, attractive plant as well, and it spreads. And I love the greens as green onions, and I also love the bulb heads. They taste a lot like shallots, so I really like that. Another one of our perennials that I really love, both as an ornamental plant and also in the early seasons as a edible, is the ostrich fern. That's what you get fiddleheads from. Now,
don't eat them once they've gone curled.
Once they uncurled, guess what? What are they, Angus?
Poisonous.
Seems to be.
That's what happens with everything. That's why I don't eat them.
Okay, that's why he doesn't eat them. Yeah, so they are delicious when they're young and tight and curled in, but then when they do unfurl, they'll kill you. Yeah, so don't eat it then. But
that's why I don't want to take a chance.
He just says he doesn't want to take a chance. They're delicious. And then but the thing about that, it's the one perennial that I actually have to be pretty consistent in my watering. The ostrich fern requires a lot of shade and also a lot of water. So it's the one that I sort of baby, because the rest of these, honestly, that's the other reason we tend to put our perennials on the outer parts of the garden beds, because you can almost ignore them. I basically just put compost on them in the spring and in the fall, and we barely water them. They get enough sunlight from enough sunlight and enough rain from the dry season we have here to do pretty well. So I know that it might seem crazy to dedicate a part of your garden to something that maybe is not your favorite, but I've learned to make them my favorites over time because it's made a huge difference in terms of how devastated I am when we have our crop failures that we get them here in Zone 3 quite frequently between frost and hail, right? And honestly, it's very nice to have stuff that comes back year after year that you don't have to worry about. So I hope you give it a try. And as always, if you have any questions about this, please feel free to write a message in the comments and we'll get back to you. And also, if there's something that you want to learn about, let us know because we got lots going on here on the homestead we'd love to share with you.
Perennials.
Perennials. Yeah, there you go.
Have a great day.
Great.